They betrayed you in one of the worst ways that a person can be betrayed by someone that they loved and trusted. And the first thing that they thought about was themselves, not you, not the damage that they caused, not what they had done, themselves, their reputation, their feelings, what this meant for them. And when you tried to talk about it with them, when you tried to have a conversation about what happened and how devastated or hurt you were, somehow it became about your reaction. Your hurt feelings were the problem. You needed to be more understanding of what they were going through. You needed to see their side. And in some cases, you were made to feel like you were equally responsible, if not more, like you had somehow participated in your own betrayal. And this is so disorienting that it almost defies language, because how could someone think that way? How does a person who looked you in the eye and said that they loved you treat your pain like it's the problem? And then the question that I know has been living in the back of your mind: are they doing this on purpose? Do they actually know what they're doing? That question is what this video is about, because the answer is not what most people expect. And understanding it is not just psychologically interesting, it is critical for your recovery and for your protection going forward. If you're new here, subscribe and hit the bell. I make content for high achieving women moving on from toxic relationships. Leave a comment below. Have you ever tried to make them see what they did? Tell me what happened. I read every single comment. So here is what is happening when someone denies, minimizes, or completely rewrites what they did to you. Some people cannot tolerate seeing themselves as the bad one. Their entire sense of identity depends on believing that they are good, justified, or at the very least, misunderstood. And when their behavior directly contradicts that identity, especially when that behavior is cruel, exploitative, or abusive, it creates an internal conflict that psychologists call cognitive dissonance. And here's the part that most people don't understand. The resolution of that conflict does not happen consciously. They're not sitting across from you thinking, I know what I did. Let me construct a lie. What happens is so much faster than that. It's more automatic than that. The moment reality threatens their self-image, their mind begins reorganizing the story. Details get blurred or dropped entirely. Intent gets rewritten. They were trying to help you. They were trying to protect you. They meant well. Your reaction becomes the focus. You overreacted. You're too sensitive. You're not remembering it correctly. Context gets rearranged so that they become the justified party. And sometimes they become the victim entirely. And once that version is constructed, it does not feel like a lie to them. It feels like the truth. You are not arguing with someone who secretly agrees with you deep down and is choosing to lie. You're often dealing with someone who has filtered out everything that would create guilt or shame and is now operating from a version of reality that protects them. That is why these conversations feel so disorienting. You are referencing a shared event, but you are not in the same reality anymore. There are several clinical frameworks that describe what is happening here, and I'll walk you through them because naming them does help. The core mechanism is cognitive dissonance, the unbearable tension between I hurt someone and I am a good person. Most people resolve that tension by adjusting their behavior. People with this pattern resolve it by adjusting reality. Underneath are defense mechanisms, unconscious strategies the mind uses to avoid pain. The most relevant ones are denial, rationalization, projection, and minimization. These are not deliberate tactics, they're automatic. There's also a concept called moral disengagement, the process by which someone disconnects their actions from their own moral standards so they can behave harmfully without feeling like a harmful person. And there is splitting. They need to remain all good in their own mind so that anything contradicting that gets rejected, rewritten, or assigned to someone else. Or in more extreme chronic cases, this pattern overlaps with narcissistic defenses. But here is what I want you to hear clearly. You do not need a diagnosis to recognize this pattern. And the label is so much less important than the behavior, Because whether it's a clinical presentation or a deeply ingrained defensive style, the impact on you is the same. Here's something that often confuses the women that I work with, and I want to address it directly because it can become a huge trap. Many of these patterns are rooted in deep shame, not consciously felt shame, but an underlying wound around worth, adequacy, around being fundamentally good enough, and the defense, the superiority, the blame, the entitlement, the rewriting of reality. Those are not the absence of shame, they are protection against feeling it. For some people, shame is uncomfortable, but tolerable. They can feel it, sit with it, reflect, and grow. For others, shame feels annihilating. Like if they fully felt it, it would collapse their sense of self entirely. So their psyche builds an entire system to avoid it at all costs. And that system can look like what you experienced in your relationship. I'm telling you this not so that you soften your position. I am telling you this so you understand why reasoning, explaining, and appealing to their empathy almost never works. You are not failing to find the right words. You are talking to a system that is specifically designed to not receive what you're saying. Understanding the wound does not make the behavior safer. It does not make them more trustworthy. And it should never become the reason you tolerate what happened or extend yourself further trying to reach them. But this is the part that I want you to really hear, because this is where I see women get pulled back in all the time. They think if they genuinely believe their version, maybe they're not so bad. Maybe they're just wounded. Maybe with the right support or the right timing or the right conversation, they'll finally see it. But here's the direct truth. Their inability to see what they did does not reduce the harm they cause, and it does not make them safer. In fact, it often makes them more dangerous, because if they cannot see their behavior clearly, they cannot take responsibility for it. And if they cannot take responsibility for it, they are very likely to repeat it. The pattern continues, not because they're necessarily calculating, but because they have no internal mechanism to stop it. A person who can reflect on their behavior, who can sit and feel discomfort, can be accountable and change, that is a person capable of growth. A person whose entire system is organized around not seeing their impact does not equal accuracy, does not equal safety. And you do not need them to agree with reality in order to trust what you experience. I want to bring this directly into your healing because I see this dynamic cause a specific kind of damage and recovery that doesn't get talked about enough. When someone rewrites reality convincingly enough, and especially when people around you seem to believe their version, it doesn't just make you angry. It makes you doubt yourself. It erodes your self-trust. It makes you question your own memory, your own perception, your own sanity. The erosion of self-trust is one of the most significant injuries of this type of relationship. And it is why so many women come to me having done enormous amounts of research, understanding narcissism intellectually, knowing all the terminology, and still feeling fundamentally uncertain about their own experience. Still asking, maybe it wasn't that bad. Still softening what happened in their minds. Your perception was not broken. Your reality was being actively rewritten by someone whose survival depended on it. Recovering your self-trust, your ability to know what you feel and see and trust what you experience is not a small thing. It is foundational. And it doesn't happen through more research or more intellectual understanding of their psychology. It happens through reconnecting with your own body, your own felt sense, your inner authority. If this resonated with you today, if you recognized that disorienting experience of watching someone rewrite reality you both lived through, I want to give you something concrete. So I have a toxic relationship assessment specifically for high achieving women. It is going to help you to identify your specific relationship trauma type, understand the dynamics that kept you in it, and finally get a real answer to the question, Why did this happen to me? And why has it been so hard to trust myself since? The link is below. You know what you have experienced. You don't need their agreement to trust it. And you don't need to keep explaining yourself to someone whose entire system is designed not to hear you. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a comment below. Have you ever tried to make them understand what they did? What happened? I read every single one. See you in the next video.